With some of the articles and things you're seeing on the national news media, the housing market must be in shambles, right? Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. I know I've said a lot of times in these market videos, but I have to reemphasize the fact that real estate is local. The national news media reports on what's happening around the country, averages from one side of the country to the other. But what happens here in Rapid City is a lot of times different than everywhere else. But let's go over some of the national headlines. Let's talk about some of those things and then bring it back to where we are today in Rapid City. One of the things you may have seen recently is foreclosures are up. And sure, they are. Especially if you consider that during the pandemic, foreclosures were at near zero. So yes, now they are starting to spike up more from then. So let's take a look at this graph right here that showcases the number of foreclosures per year across America. And you can see, yeah, sure, we've got more in 2024 and 2025, even maybe even more in 2025 than 2024. So we do see those numbers growing, but they're nowhere near the foreclosures of 2008, 9, 10 market crash. This article from LendingTree reports that in 2024, 0.7% of all mortgage debt in the U.S. was seriously delinquent in the fall of 2024. In fact, in quarter four of 2024, only 2% of mortgages in the United States are considered seriously underwater. And that's largely due to this graph right here, showcases the amount of equity Americans have in their properties recently. Over 65% of Americans either have their home paid off or have at least 50% equity in their properties. Foreclosure and bank-owned activity here in the Rapid City real estate market is significantly low. Right now, there are only 3 properties that are active that are either foreclosure, bank-owned, or in short sale situations. There are 4 of these properties under contract and 6 have sold in the past 6 months. That equals a whopping total of 13 properties in this category in the past 6 months. So while we are seeing an increase in foreclosures across the country, I'm not sure that is really going to have a huge impact on this general state of the market. One of the main reasons for the crash in 2008 was the amount of what they considered subprime mortgages, whether they were interest only or they were adjustable rate mortgages. Lenders were giving people loans based on just a quick look at their income or based upon what a future income they would be, whether they got a raise or more money in the future. Then when those adjustable rate mortgages kicked in a few years and they started having higher home payments and their income didn't grow with that, that created a lot of foreclosures because it was just easier to let the bank take it than having to pay these higher interest rates. With the popularity of buy down loans where you could pay money to have a lower interest rate for year 1 and then a 1% higher interest rate in year 2, and then 1% higher interest rate in year 3. While that has kind of became popular in 2022 when interest rates got up to 7-8%, we'll see if that also becomes an issue in the next few years as those interest rates get into year 2 and year 3, closer to 7 and 8%, and people were expecting for those interest rates to come down, and they didn't, or maybe they're expecting for their job to be a little bit better, and maybe it wasn't. There was a very popular saying going around a couple years ago when the interest rates were really high: marry the house, date the rate, which means, hey, that interest rate's going to come down, so just don't worry about that, buy the house, and then later on when the interest rates goes down, you can finance that. If the people who bought the properties in those higher interest rate categories were expecting the interest rate to come down in the past couple of years to make their mortgage payments happen, they could be in some serious trouble as those interest rates have not come down significantly to create a great refinancing option. The second thing you've probably heard is, oh, there's now a huge glut of homes on the market. This also kind of ties into place with the foreclosure options because a lot of the places that were very, very busy during pandemic, Texas, Florida, they're the ones right now that are seeing a lot more homes in the market, making their home prices kind of dip a little bit. So some of the people that bought in those areas a few years ago decided, I don't want to live here anymore, went to sell their properties, and they actually lost some value in their property because of this inventory. Check out this map showing the home price change. This was in March 21st, 2025, so it's a little bit older, but it does give you an idea of where things are at. And you can see in here in South Dakota, 0.3% increase, with our Wyoming neighbors getting a little bit of a boom with a 12% increase, but our Montana people with a 0.2% decrease, along with Texas, Washington, Alabama, South Carolina, and even a little bit down in Florida. I have some realtor friends in Florida, especially with the condo crisis going on down there. There's a lot of properties on the market in Florida. Fewer people are buying. There are hurricanes are going on. All the different things are happening down there. So we are seeing some home prices starting to decline in Florida. I'm also working with some clients that put their home on the market in California. I think they had an open house the Saturday before Easter, got 10 offers, and it was a very easy sale for them in that area. Here in Rapid City, we are also seeing a greater number of homes on the market, but that isn't necessarily affecting our prices considerably. On May 1st, 2025, there were 610 homes active on the market. Now that's up considerably from 459 in 2024 and 347 in 2023. If we translate this into months of inventory, taking the entire residential of the Black Hills MLS in account, there were 859 homes sold in the past 6 months. That's 143 homes sold each month. There are currently, as of today, 687 homes active on the market. That gives us about 4 months of inventory. Now, 4 months of inventory still kind of gets us into the seller's market territory. A balanced market is at 6. A buyer's market is over 6. However, the last few times I've looked at this months of inventory number, we are closer to that 3 number, maybe even closer to 2 than we are to 4. So we're starting to see a little bit more time on market and a little bit more creeping over towards that buyer side. So what about those interest rates? Are we finally going to see some relief? Are we going to see them start to adjust down a little bit anytime soon? Earlier this year, people were thinking, yeah, we'll probably see a few decreases throughout the year, and maybe by beginning of 2026, we'll be closer to the 5s. Well, then we had trade war stuff and tariff stuff and all this other stuff kind of going on in the economy. So they've kind of put the brakes on that talk. The latest mortgage rate projections for the year show us coming down maybe 6.5%, maybe. If we could possibly get closer to that 5%, that would really help out the buyers, which would help out the sellers getting their home sold and include those people who bought those buy downs and are ready to refinance their properties so they can breathe a little easier moving forward. All right, now let's get into our home price stats for our area. For your pre-owned single-family home properties in the Rapid City and surrounding areas, your average sold price in February was about $412,000. That went down in March to $409,000 and then jumped back up in April to $412,000 for your average sold price in the Rapid City and surrounding areas. New construction is a little more interesting. In February, the average sale price was $414,000. That went down to $401,000 in March. And here in April is $397,000. I think what we're seeing here is an emergence of smaller, more affordable type properties. It isn't necessarily that those building costs are coming down, the materials costs are coming down, but we're selling smaller, more affordable type properties. There's a few that are in place around the area. So we're starting to see those kind of come in, the $250,000, $300,000 smaller new construction affordable properties. How have homes in the Rapid City area been selling? In the last couple of days, we've had 43 homes go under contract. 15 of those were under 30 days, but only 3 were in the single-digit territory. Now, things have changed a little bit. Like the beginning of April, it seemed like spring just really hit the fan, and people were starting to sell properties in a couple of days. There was one point where I looked at the days on market, and they were sold in single digits, like 10 or 12 of them. So we're starting to see a little bit more time elapse in this scenario, except for the properties that are the cool ones. I saw a property in Black Hawk listed that was on the end of a cul-de-sac and had kind of the Black Hills right behind in the backyard. I saw later an agent posted that there was 3 offers on the property that they had won. So the right properties are selling fast, multiple offers. That stuff's kind of still going on. The average days in market in April was 43 compared to last year's 35. So we are starting to see homes stay on the market a little bit longer. Also interesting to note, in those 43 properties that are under contract in the past few days, the average price point of these properties is about $485,000. So it's not just the cheap homes that are being sold, we're getting some higher priced homes sold in this time frame as well. If you're thinking about selling your property, because of the longer days on market, we have to have our expectations in the right place. We're not in 2021 anymore. You can't just put a sign in the yard and expect multiple offers that weekend. You have to price accordingly and be ready to drop your price and do the things that are necessary. Probably offer some concessions to the buyer. That's becoming more and more popular here in the past few years. And you need to have your house ready for sale. Buyers are being a lot more picky. Little things they're picking out. Oh, I don't like this little thing. I don't like that little thing. The more you can do to make your home as beautiful as possible, as I've said before, the better the chance the buyer's going to say, yep, I like your property. I want to buy it. But the key, as always, to getting your home sold quick is making sure we're right in that pricing point. If you're thinking about buying a home, you have a lot more options than you did a few years ago. Right now in Rapid City, under the $500,000 mark, there are 90 homes that you could choose from. In Box Elder, there are 50 homes. If you're looking between the $300,000 and $400,000 mark in Rapid City proper, like the actual within the city limits of Rapid City, we've got 28 homes to look at. The next $100,000 category, we've got 33 homes to look at. And if you're looking between the $500,000 and $600,000 homes, there are 18 homes to look at. You have more options to look at. You have more choices. However, don't be afraid to jump on the one that says buy me. That house in Blackhawk wasn't on the market for longer than 24 hours before it was sold. So while the national media is, as always, promoting their doom and gloom, here in the Rapid City real estate market, we're getting a little bit closer to a balanced market, which is great for everyone. And hopefully, as we see those interest rates come down, we can start seeing more activity, but the right homes, the right price, looking the best, they are getting sold. If you're thinking about selling your home, as I mentioned, one of the important things is doing the things that you need to do to get it ready for sale. For this, I've got a great resource for you. It's called the 7 Steps for Getting My Home Ready for Sale. If you're watching on TV, you can scan this QR right here or click the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Remember, love where you live.